It started like any other morning along Vietnam's central coast, fishermen rising before dawn, motorbikes filling the streets, and the South China Sea glimmering under a gray sunrise. But then, the ocean began to roar. Winds stronger than 110 miles per hour slammed into the shoreline, and in a matter of moments, the world changed. Typhoon Kalmaegi, a monster born over the warm waters of the Pacific, arrived with the power of a freight train. Waves as high as 20 feet crashed over seawalls. Street signs twisted under the force of the wind. Power lines snapped, plunging millions into darkness. This wasn't just a storm, it was a takeover. Entire communities braced for survival as Kalmaegi tore into Quang, Ngai, Da Nang, and Nha Trang, rewriting the map of Vietnam's coastline and marking the beginning of one of the most destructive disasters the region has ever faced. This is the story of Kalmaegi. The day the ocean came home. Just after 7 a.m. on November 6th, Kalmaegi made landfall in Quang Ngai, and the transformation was instant. Concrete homes shook like cardboard. Metal roofing tore away and vanished into the storm-blackened sky. The streets once crowded with morning commuters were swallowed by floodwaters rising more than 3 feet in less than an hour. Residents who thought they still had time suddenly had none. Families abandoned their motorbikes in the rushing water, climbing onto second floors as the waves crashed through windows and storefronts. A fisherman named Min, soaked and shaking, shouted into the wind, "The ocean isn't outside anymore. It's here in our homes." The province's major rivers, the Tra Cuc and the Ve, overflowed violently, surging through neighborhoods like unstoppable tidal rivers. Bridges shook under the force of debris farming tools. Fences, entire fishing boats turned into missiles. Emergency alerts echoed from crackling loudspeakers. Evacuate immediately. Move to higher ground. But higher ground was disappearing. Dozens of villages were sealed off as roads collapsed into rushing torrents. Landslides crashed down the hillsides, blocking rescue vehicles trying to break through. With every passing minute, Kalmaegi tightened its grip, and the people of Quang Ngai realized they weren't just witnessing a disaster. They were living through history.
Giờ đấy rồi.
While the coast battled walls of water, Dak Lak, hundreds of miles inland, faced a different nightmare. Kalmaegi refused to weaken. Instead, it intensified, dragging its fury deep into Vietnam's central highlands, where no one expected winds this violent. Trees bent like blades of grass. 70-90 mph gusts ripped apart tin roofs, sending metal sheets spinning like deadly weapons. Coffee plantations, the heartbeat of the region's economy, were flattened beneath pounding rainfall that topped 10 inches in just a few hours. In Buon Ma Thuat City, power grids crashed one by one. The lights vanished. The city fell silent except for the roar of the wind and screams of twisting steel. Rescue teams navigated with flashlights and ropes, knocking on doors swallowed by water. A mother named Lan clutched her son as water climbed the stairs beneath them. "We woke up to a storm we didn't know was coming," she cried. The wind sounded like it wanted to tear the house apart. Roads connecting villages collapsed under landslides, sealing entire communities behind walls of mud and rock. Helicopters were grounded, the storm too severe for even trained pilots to face. Dak Lak had believed the mountains would protect them. Kalmaegi proved otherwise.
Quá sợ luôn.
As Kalmaegi pushed south along the Vietnamese coastline, Nha Trang became its next target, a destination famous for calm beaches and vacation resorts. But on November 6th, those shores turned into a battlefield. A wall of storm surge up to 12 feet high smashed over the waterfront, flooding luxury hotels, restaurants, and crowded seaside neighborhoods. Boats snapped from their moorings and were tossed into streets like abandoned toys. Tourists who had gathered to watch the waves quickly realized they had nowhere to run. Videos circulated online showed hotel lobbies filling like aquariums as employees rushed guests upstairs, carrying children in their arms. The airport shut down completely, more than 40 flights canceled or diverted. Travelers slept across terminal floors while winds howled like sirens outside. Landslides along the coastal highway buried tour buses and cut off access to nearby towns. Rescuers worked against time, digging through mud with their bare hands before the next surge hit. Marine scientists described the ocean as angry and unrecognizable. Coral reefs near the shoreline suffered massive damage, threatening a tourism economy already brought to its knees. For a city built on beauty, Kalmaegi left behind only wreckage, and the fear that storms like this may return again, stronger than ever. As the winds roared inland, the true battle began, not against Kalmaegi's force, but against time and rising water. Families from Da Nang to Dak Lak found themselves trapped in total blackout. Phones died. Radios fell silent. Only the sound of crashing debris and terrified voices filled the night. In Quang, Ngai, a young father broke a locked door to free neighbors as floodwater climbed above 6 feet, forcing dozens to the roof. In Dak Lak, volunteer rescue teams navigated narrow alleys with inflatable boats calling out through the darkness. Anyone inside? We can help you, just shout. Hospitals overflowed quickly. Dozens injured by falling trees or metal roofing were treated under flashlight beams. Doctors stapled wounds while rain leaked through cracked ceilings. By midnight, more than 300,000 people were displaced. Many arrived at shelters soaked barefoot and holding only what they could carry in plastic bags, passports, baby formula, and 1 or 2 family photos. Yet in the chaos, humanity shined brightest. Strangers shared food. Soldiers carried elderly residents on their backs. A teenager gave his dry sweatshirt to a crying child he'd never met. Kalmaegi pushed Vietnam to the edge, but the people refused to break. As soon as Typhoon Kalmaegi made landfall, Vietnam activated one of its largest emergency mobilizations in recent history. Over 25,000 troops, firefighters, and volunteer rescue teams were deployed across Quang Ngai Da Nang, Dak Lak, and Nha Trang, backed by helicopters, amphibious vehicles, and drones scanning for stranded survivors. Along Highway 1A, which had collapsed into flood-carved pits, military trucks pushed through shoulder-deep currents to deliver food and drinking water. In Nha Trang, coast guards battled towering waves to rescue fishermen swept miles offshore when their vessels capsized. Evacuation shelters, schools, gymnasiums, government halls rapidly swelled beyond capacity. More than 600 metric tons of rice water and medical supplies were distributed in the first 12 hours. Nurses moved from mat to mat, checking blood pressure and treating wounds with dwindling supplies. Electricians worked through the storm's tail-climbing broken poles to restore power to hospitals. Bulldozers cleared landslides that buried rural roads, racing to reach mountain communities still unaccounted for. Every hour of delay meant lives at risk. Despite fierce winds and flooded streets, rescue crews pressed forward with one mission: no one gets left behind. Kalmaegi may have unleashed chaos, but Vietnam's united response, fueled by courage, discipline, and relentless determination, became its strongest shield. When the winds finally eased and daylight returned, the true scope of Kalmaegi's impact was impossible to ignore. Entire districts along the central coast remained underwater neighborhoods that once pulsed with life, now sat silent beneath 6 to 10 feet of muddy floodwaters. The streets of Da Nang were coated in debris, shattered glass, twisted metal, and uprooted trees piled against storefronts. In Dak Lak's farming communities, the damage was heartbreaking. Thousands of acres of rice fields, coffee plantations, and rubber crops, the backbone of local livelihoods, had been reduced to brown wastelands. Generations of effort wiped away in a single night. Many residents returned to find their homes missing roofs, walls cracked, and belongings buried beneath sludge. Economists estimate losses well into the hundreds of millions of dollars, but survivors measure their losses differently in memories destroyed and futures uncertain. Infrastructure repairs could take months. Washed-out bridges severed supply routes to inland villages. Ports in Nha Trang remain crippled with fishing fleets shattered along the coast. Tourism, normally thriving, has ground to a halt. Yet through exhaustion and heartbreak, communities begin to rebuild. Volunteers clear debris. Families salvage what they can. Every small victory, a cleaned room, a reconnected power line, becomes a symbol of hope. Against nature's worst, the spirit of Vietnam refuses to break. As Typhoon Kalmaegi fades into the horizon, a heavy silence lingers across Vietnam's central coast. A silence filled not with peace, but with reflection. Homes can be rebuilt, roads can be cleared, power grids can be restored. But the emotional scars, the fear felt by families clinging to rooftops, the uncertainty etched into every parent's eyes, will take far longer to heal. Kalmaegi is no longer just a headline. It's a stark warning. Warmer oceans are fueling stronger typhoons. Rainfall is becoming more extreme. Coastlines once considered safe now face deadlier storm surge and inland flooding than ever before. Scientists say this is the new reality, not decades from now, but here already reshaping lives across Asia and the world. But there is resilience. There is unity. There is hope found in every volunteer carrying supplies through the mud, every rescuer guiding a boat through dangerous currents, every community refusing to be defined by disaster. From the Gulf Coast of America to the shores of Vietnam, the message is universal. Preparedness saves lives. Awareness drives change. If this report moved, you help us spread the story. Like, share, and subscribe for more real-time coverage of climate-driven disasters around the world. Stay informed, stay prepared, because the next storm is already forming just beyond the horizon.